Okay, so here we are. It's 2026, and it's currently April. And you know how a lot of life happens and then it catches up to you, and you're like, oh my God, where's the time gone? Well, since my last recordings and sharing my coming out story, then a lot of life happened. A lot of healing has happened, and I am in recovery from all of that. But I'm in this relationship between me and my creativity where I'm exploring what feels good, stuff that feels a little new, stuff that feels like I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just gonna do it. And then also there's this part where it's like I have this background, I have a minor in art. And it sometimes has felt like nothing, and sometimes it has felt like everything. And so I'm navigating that through my creativity. And so I finally feel like I'm in this place within creativity in my art, in my artwork, but it's not necessarily work. It's more of just like working out my inner world on the canvas or whatever medium, however you want to call it, I'm working with. Whether I'm exploring sewing or cooking or even gaming or doodling on Procreate or creating videos or loving on my fur babies or even painting on a canvas. It's all intertwined for me, and it all helps support my mindfulness journey and really helps all these things and exploring things outside of what I've just mentioned helps me come back into the present moment and focus on my right now instead of ruminating and worrying about this or that that's going on in life. So, I want to bring you in on my creative journey. I want to bring you in on the part of my experience right now where I'm exploring painting on a canvas. I'm exploring having other materials be part of that work on the canvas. And some of it feels familiar and some of it feels unfamiliar, but I'm just doing it. I'm just going with it. Okay, Yub Bug. I have my Yub Bug cuteness. Love Bug is what I call her, but I also call her Yub Bug. And one moment, let me pull her on my chair. Come here, Yub Bug. Oh my goodness. Come on. Come on. There we go. Let's see if I can capture her in this shot. Yeah, that's my Yub Bug. That's my Yub Bug. She's incredibly sweet, and she is truly my support animal, my support love, and the person who's obviously obsessed with me. It's the cutest thing. So let me share the backstory of her real quick. Yeah, I talking about you. I talking about you. Can I talk about you? Okay. So back in like October, September of 2025, my family and I just got back from eating out at a Mexican restaurant, a local Mexican restaurant. It was so delicious. It's called Franco's. It was absolutely amazing. And then we get back home, and my sisters and I are all getting out of the car. And we're getting our stuff. We're in the garage. We're making our way to the door inside the home. And then all of a sudden, the garage door is still lifted up. We see this little fur ball under my sister's car, like right underneath the tire. And we were like, oh no, a fur baby to rescue. we don't need this right now. And honestly, I thought it was just like a really scraggly looking dog. No offense to those that like Chihuahuas, but I honestly thought it was a Chihuahua. I honestly don't know the different breeds of dogs, so that's just what my brain assumed, and that's just what it created in my head. And so my sister, my older sister, just like brings cuteness in and just kind of holds her for a minute. And then come to find out, she's this beautiful Yorkie. She's this beautiful Yorkie. She's right here in my lap. And it's been love ever since. So we think that somebody just like dropped her off in that neighborhood we were living in and just like couldn't deal with her. But as she integrated into our home and our home life and our family, we learned that she had her own disabilities. She's had some breathing issues and some inflammation in her bronchial tubes, and one of her airways, one of her lungs was actually completely collapsed. But thank goodness for our vet, who is amazing. We were able to give her some medicine and help her feel so much better. And she loves playing with Teddy and Ahsoka. Ahsoka is our third fur baby, and she's actually a tripod. Teddy, though, has mega esophagus, so we have to feed him in a Bailey chair. A Bailey chair is like a high chair, but for dogs. Because with mega esophagus, he can't keep all of his food down. So how I remember mega esophagus is because like the esophagus is mega large. It won't close like yours and mine does. So anyway, Cuteness kind of attached herself to Kim and Karis a little bit, but that just wasn't working out between the relationship of Teddy and Ahsoka, and she was kind of getting trampled all over being a small fur baby. And so she ended up being attached to me and, started sleeping in my room and just like hanging around me a lot more and chilling with me on the couch. And so she my baby now. She my very first fur baby. I have been wanting my own fur baby, and I am so thankful that I got Cuteness. She was around the age of 2 when we got her, so she's probably inching her way close to around 3 years. And we've had to work through some anxiety and we've had to work through some aggression and been training her to be a kind fur baby. And it's been a bit of a journey, but she is doing well and she honestly just loves pets all day long. She loves to give me kisses all day long. We play, and you'll get to see her in more of our videos and just like how fun she is and cute and just like her own cute little personality. She's sassy though. Like she loves wearing outfits and bandanas. And part of my like sewing exploration, I want to create her some outfits. So I'll have to show y'all when I do that. But anyway, back to exploring creativity. So, I'll share more on this later, but I have been in a journey of understanding and learning what it means for me with an individual with chronic illness. So, for the past couple of years, my body has just been experiencing massive pain in pretty much all of my body, let alone also dealing with like chronic illness and asthma and I meant to say migraines, not chronic illness. And also learning about what it means for me as an individual and being a neurodivergent. And I'll dive more to that in, pardon me, another episode. But I just kind of want to give some background as to where I'm at with my journey, my creative journey. And so all of these things play into beginning again, honestly, and not doing life how I usually have, which has just been like, just do it, get it done, muscle through it, and then sleep in to hopefully sleep off the pain that my body is feeling. And I can handle a lot of pain. I've learned that through my migraine journey. I've taken shots for my migraines. I've taken medications. I've done Botox. Like, I've done everything under the sun, honestly, it feels. And I find myself to just be in a place where, like, nothing feels like it's working. So I'm really having to pull back and relearn other ways to help take care of my body and its pain that it experiences. And also, um, I love a naturopathic or a home remedy way. And I keep coming back to that and keep coming back to how do I want to do that? And learning that too, quite honestly. Herbs and herbal medicine is something else I am learning. It's kind of been put on the back burner multiple times, but I'm finally in a place where, like, we should really explore that. That is probably going to be really helpful. But growing up in a home where the modern medicine took place, took center stage with how we navigated pain, sickness, and so forth. You know, that's what I know. That's a lot of my background. So my mom is a nurse and she has her bachelor's in it. And so she's been the LVN, she's been the RN, and she's navigated, being in management as a nurse and so forth, and working with different doctors. And so, with her journey in the medical field, a lot of that education, maybe a lot, maybe more closer to like just some of that education, I picked up and I learned it so that I could have those skills for myself, especially when it comes to pain management and as well as like wound care and what to do. But mostly just like when to use Tylenol, naproxen, or ibuprofen, what to use for inflammation, what's going to help more with chronic pain. And I've leaned on those for a lot of my life. And now I am just trying to restart again, but not trying to restart in every aspect of my life. That would be way too much and overwhelming, especially as a neurodivergent and an individual with ADHD, as well as dyscalculia and dyslexia. So my brain just functions very differently, and I've learned that over time. And so, with all that, also navigating like auditory um differences, not necessarily, but possibly close to a disability where like, and it could also probably be part of ADHD, where I can't pick up on what someone is saying when I can't pick up on what someone is saying when there's a lot of loud music or when there's also a lot of like flashing lights. That really doesn't do well for me, and probably also with the part of me that experiences migraines, flashing lights doesn't feel good in my body. And so, exploring other ways for pain management and also the longevity of my body, um, is where I find myself in congruence and parallel with exploring what creativity means for me, with my life, how it is currently, and not just coming from a place of like getting it done now, but allowing myself to slow down and allow whatever I'm doing to take time and not have to hurry up and get it done. So, back in college, the thing that really burnt me out the most, the thing that caused me well, maybe not the thing, but a lot of things caused me stress and anxiety being a college student. I feel like I can enjoy the college campus now that I'm not a college student because it's so much more enjoyable. But like, honestly, being a college student was a lot. And looking back, with being an individual who has dyslexia, I had to work like 10 times harder to remember shit, to do the homework, to write. That's one of the biggest challenges is writing and grammar and getting it out of my head in a way that actually flows, in a way that actually sounds professional for what I needed to do in college. And the person that helped me the most to make it make sense was my sister, honestly. She was my rock throughout all of that. And in navigating writing papers, it was one of the hardest things. And looking back, I wish I would have had those like ADA, what is the word? ADA accommodations, where maybe I'd have more test time, or time to take a test, and whatever else there would have been for an individual with dyslexia and dyscalculia, just like that probably would have really helped. But now that I've graduated and now that I've learned these things about myself, I can just know about these things, learn and understand how to navigate them as an adult, and with all the things we do as adults, life and so forth, and just give myself grace and kindness. It's easier said than done. Most of the time, I'm super critical. Most of the time, I'm having a hard time in my brain and in my emotions, and I'm navigating it every day because the self criticism is super high. And it's not from a place of like wanting to be that way, it just is. I think that maybe there's more of us out there that experience that and like don't just want to be a high functioning, high, um, what's the word? Not high engagement, but like, I think I just said the word, but like wanting to be an individual that does a lot. I am just an individual that can do a lot. And over the years, my body has had the capacity to do a lot, and then it wore me down pretty quickly. And a lot of that has to do it plays into the chronic illness journey and looking back, seeing where it actually began and why it actually began. But I'm not going to get into all that right now. So, my goal is to just kind of capture my creative journey right now and what that looks like, and capture what I'm doing, my thoughts behind it, why I'm doing it, and what I'm seeing throughout the process. And so I'm trying to share a lot of that artistic journey and like the projects I'm working on or the canvas I'm working on, and be able to show you the process and be able to share with you what it looks like, how it evolves, how it changes, what I learned along the way. And I hope that it inspires you to start anywhere, but start somewhere that feels good for you as an individual. Because I get this a lot where it's like, oh my God, that's so gorgeous. How did you do that? And my answer is, I have no fucking clue. I was just trying to navigate my inner emotional world that sometimes has felt overwhelming and sometimes has felt like I can manage it, and then other times just kind of feels like blah. And so my creativity helps me manage, navigate, and feel and pay attention to my inner emotional world, my inner thoughts, my inner beliefs, and be able to just honestly sit with it, whatever it may be, and allow that to just be there. Because I think a lot of us just like ignore it or push it down or have a hard time understanding what's going on. And the biggest thing for my emotional journey that plays into my creative journey is when I understand an emotion that's coming up for me that feels different, that feels like a lot, I will, in a way, or maybe just talking it out loud, this is what I would prefer to do. It doesn't always play out like this, is just allow myself to sit with it a little bit at a time. So maybe it's just kind of like picking up a rock or picking up a drink. You hold it, you sip it, you enjoy it for a little bit, and then you set it back down and you come back to it when you're thirsty, or when you want to enjoy that drink, whether it's wine, whether it's Dr. Pepper, tea, coffee, a smoothie, water, whatever it is. You come back to it when you need it. And that's kind of how I feel like I am with my emotional exploration and my creative exploration. So there have been times and seasons where I'm not doing any art and I'm really heavily involved in life and what that looks like at that time. Whether it's things involving my sisters or my parents or even myself and or the fur babies and just being where I'm needed to be, and then coming back to my artistic journey to help have this, it's almost like a buffer, or like also like this little sacred space that I come to when I need to, like, in a way, come back to the wheel of life. And I'm not talking about like the wheel of life that is talked a lot about in coaching, maybe in some other psychology fields, but I'm talking about like working with clay on the wheel. And for me, I've worked with clay on the wheel where the wheel is spinning super, super fast or even really, really slow. And when you're working with clay on the wheel, number one, you can't have nails. So I'm not doing that right now. And number two, it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of upper body strength and it takes a lot of focusing on the work on the clay because it's very wet and it's very moldable, and if it gets overworked or too watered, like you're not going to have a sturdy piece. And so for me, I come back to my experience a lot of working with clay on the wheel, because if I'm feeling very emotional and I'm just crying a lot, then it's really hard to focus on my art journey or daily life. And so I need to allow myself to cry. Or in other cases where I have been holding on to or stuffing down some of my own emotions, then the clay of life is just too dry. And I need to add some of that release, allow it to be moisturized with my tears, which is a weird word. Allow it to be, we'll call it bathed in the watery tears of my emotional experience, and like kind of find this balance where maybe it's not so extreme and maybe it's just more a rhythm in everyday life of coming back to my creativity, of sitting with my emotions, of painting it on the canvas, or of exploring a different medium, whatever that may be. It's in relationship. Creativity and my emotional experience, it's in relationship and it's in co-creative, co-collaborative communication. And for me, they're not separate and they are like a marriage, like a commitment. Committing to my exploration of my emotional world flows into exploring my creativity on the canvas or sewing or cooking, you know? And they're not, for me, ever separate, but sometimes one may not be occurring as much as the other. And like maybe there's more cooking going on or there's more painting going on. And then I get to a point where it's like, oh, I really need to process that thing that really triggered me. And I really need to sit with it or I really need to cry it out, you know? Or another modality that just came to my memory or I was reminded of was also tarot decks. I have, between me and my sister, a lot of tarot decks that we can work with where it's just kind of like this meditative practice of shuffling the cards and then just kind of seeing what pops out and allowing myself to get grounded with sage and Palo Santo. And I think that would be the third element is spirituality. So I can't just process my emotions by myself and I can't just try to paint or just use color in whatever form, matte pencil, procreate, painting, or even just drawing. I can't just do that. I have to also allow the spirituality part to come in as well and allow myself to sit with spirit, hear spirit. But like again, with emotional processing and creative work on the canvas or whatever the medium may be, I can't ignore my spirituality forever. Like, I can't not talk with spirit and I can't not be with my spirit guides, but there are seasons of life that just calls more of my attention. And sometimes it feels more challenging to just hear what spirit has to say. And I think that I've noticed that recently where I feel like I have a little bit of a resistance to just sitting and hearing what spirit has to say, or just hearing to see, or hearing to understand, or just hearing to hear, or hearing to listen, you know? And what also helps me in my spiritual journey is apps like the Calm app that helps me meditate. So, meditation is really important to me, whether it's walking or whether it's sitting or whether it's movement like yoga or Pilates. I do Pilates on the reformer, and that's been really helpful for me, especially with chronic illness. It's been like a really lower impact. Whereas yoga, a lot of the times I experienced having to be in downward dog for too long, and then all that blood rushes to my head, and then I get a little lightheaded. Maybe it's not a little, maybe it's a little too much lightheaded. And so then creativity and my emotional processing in my spiritual world, like my inner soul, my inner spirit, and then spirit herself are in this co-collaborative communication where we are focusing on, for example, like just the light and the elements and the color of nature. And then feeling a sense of connectedness with spirit when I slow down and I pause and I'm just being for a moment. And whether that being is just like sitting outside or just sitting in my office or sitting in my car, waiting on picking up my sister, whatever it may be, those moments of pause is where I find peace and where I find pockets of mindfulness because every day I can't just sit down and paint, or I can't just sit down and listen to spirit. I think as an individual with ADHD and just part of who I am, it's more difficult, or maybe I'm just noticing it more of it feeling difficult to just sit there and be. And yes, it is good to do that. And it's important to meditate and be, well, not just be, but have a mindfulness practice. But for me, they all come together. They are all in co-collaboration. And here I am experiencing all of this, and here I am in the middle of it. And sometimes I feel like I I don't got it. Sometimes I feel like just throwing my hands up in the air and just being like, I don't know. I just feel this certain way, or like feel something, and then I work it out on the canvas. And then I start to just feel this peacefulness within myself, within my heart, my mind, my soul, my spirit. And then I find myself then just kind of like feeling more connected to universe, to God, to my guides, to spirit. And then it's just kind of like everything just like takes a deep breath. Like, oh, we needed that. And for me, that's what mindfulness is. It's like it's all integrated, but am I being present? Am I noticing where I am? Am I noticing what's around me? Do I feel myself in my body? Do I feel present here? Or am I really thinking about the next few hours or the next few days and like who's coming to the house? Who am I hanging out with? What's the next thing on the calendar? What do I need to take care of for my business, for all the other different parts of life? And I can easily go there into like thinking about what's on my calendar, and that's part of my ADHD process is a planner, and it helps me to get grounded, to get regulated, to just kind of understand the layout of the day and the weeks and where I need to show up and where I don't, but then also allowing myself to forget about it and allowing myself to just not constantly ruminate and worry about what's the next thing, what's the next thing, what's the next thing. And so that I can just be present and be in where I am at in my life, whether it's going or perceived like it's going really great. And it may feel really challenging and difficult and emotional, and or allowing the joy and the happiness to really sink in. And I think that's where I'm at. I'm currently finding myself in a lot of different spaces and places and emotional regulation, and where noticing where I'm being present in my life and where I'm not. And so I'm noticing that the more I allow myself to be present, to notice where I am, to be exactly where I am, and to allow the worries of the calendar and the next thing and the next thing and all that to just be, to be there like paper on a whiteboard, like sticky notes. In my family, we have this big whiteboard and we use it for our schedule so that we all understand what's going on. And it works for us as a household of neurodivergent individuals. And so if I can just put it somewhere, leave it there, I know it's going to be paid attention to. So then I can show up in my life. I can show up more present. I can show up with my presence because the present is a present. The present moment is a present. And I'm relearning that every day. And so this is where I'm finding myself. And I want to share more of my journey and my health journey and all that. And that will come later down the line. That will show up later. But right now, where I'm at is just like exploring what it means to be an artist because I've never considered myself an artist. I've never considered myself an individual that would have such a label. Even though I've entered my stuff into other galleries, I've entered my stuff, well, not necessarily entered it into other galleries, but like it's been noticed by my professors when I was in college, and they were absolutely amazed. And even in childhood, my art was just always amazing people. And it's just been this thing that I'm like, yeah, that's cool, whatever. Let's just like not. Like, we kind of joke around with our little sister that she's a Kuromi. If you don't know Kuromi, it's like a Hello Kitty character. I'm sure that you can research and figure out who that is. But Kuromi is just like this little sassy individual that's just like sweet, but then like kind of slaps you with a little bit of like, mm-hmm. And that's my little sister. She's just hands down the most sass. And so I don't remember where I was going with that ADHD. Um, because sometimes the minor few seconds feel like a long time. So I don't remember where I was going with that, but my artistic journey is helping me feel more present and more mindful in my life. And my creativity, oh yeah, that's where I was, is my artistic process has always just, or my art has always just been there. And every time I come back to it, something like amazing ends up happening that other people think is amazing. But for me, it was a huge emotional processing. I don't know if it's like regurge, like I'm not trying to throw up my emotions, but like in a way, I need to throw it out. I need to throw it out there in a safe way where I'm not causing harm, and I just need to get it out of me. And that's what my artistic process has been like is all the things I've talked about and not coming from a place of like this is going to be the next best thing, like I'm going to get so much money from this, I'm going to like blah 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 put this in such and such gallery. Like I'm not even planning on putting anything in any gallery right now. I'm not planning on trying to get XYZ amount of money from this or that art piece. I'm just trying to process my emotions in a way that is safe and kind and understanding and not going to cause harm to other people. Like, you know? Because I have big feelings. I have big anxiety. I have big fears. I can be depressy all day. I can sit down and worry and ruminate all day. I have a hard time feeling happiness and joy. Not just because of everything of the shitty shit that's going on in the world, but because of my own experience in life leading up to this moment, my own trigger warning traumas, my own life, and everything I'm navigating. I don't ever feel like I'm the expert. I don't ever feel like I'm the person who knows. Only when it comes to the calendar, though. I do feel like I'm an expert on that. But thank you, ADHD, for that. I just feel like I'm an individual trying to work through my emotions and allow them to be what they are and then to just let go because I need to let go of a lot and I need to process a lot too because I'm trying to make space for joy, happiness, love, kindness. Like I used to say as a little kid, when my mom would be taking us to school, I was in kindergarten at the time, and my sister was like in third grade. And so I do come from a religious household. And so on our way to school, we would pray about the day. And I would always say, like, I want all the good stuff and not the bad stuff and a cherry on top. And so, like, what I would imagine in my brain was like this stack of ice cream and somebody trying to put bad things in my ice cream, like cigarettes or yucky dirt, when I just wanted like Jolly Ranchers and lollipops and vanilla ice cream. Not necessarily like Jolly Ranchers and lollipops in my ice cream, but like that's how I imagined it. But like, I don't like toppings anyway on my ice cream, to be completely honest. But that's how I would imagine it is like, I just want all the good stuff. I don't want a shitty day. I don't want a shitty experience. I don't want to feel angry. I don't want to feel mad. And that's where I still find myself. Like, I just want to purely experience love, joy, happiness, a peace, kindness towards myself and others, and just like not just be a good human, but like be someone I want to be around. Be someone that is so fucking peaceful and chill and like the kindest, warmest granny hug. And that's like who I want to be. But I'm working through all these other emotions that are part of the human experience. And I don't want to not feel them. I don't want to ignore them because then they get worse. And so my artistic process first for me is to work through those more challenging emotions and experiences to make space for the love, for the joy, for the happiness, for the pure joy of the present moment, whatever it is, and the pure experience of present, being present, and being in my life, and not living from a third party experience of just watching my life, but I want to be in it fully. And I feel like with all the shit I've already gone through, I should have this massive expansion for love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness. But I don't always feel that way. And so coming back to a medium that helps me explore my emotions and color and self expression and whatever else I need that to be is my safe space, is the container in which I can hold all of my emotions and the fullest expression of whatever my life is at that time and just allow it to be. And maybe that was the longest expression or explanation, I mean, for my artistic journey, but I think that's where we all can begin. It's just like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but I just kind of want to throw paint on the canvas and see what happens. And like allow no expectation. That's the biggest thing for me is no expectation, just do it. Just do it and have no end game, have no end goal because with every other thing in my life, there's an end goal. There is a desire and hoped for result at the end of that goal, wherever the end is of that goal. And with art, I don't want goals. I don't want to have to meet XYZ by end of year date. Just no expectations, only exploration. And let it go from there. And I think having that release of like no boundaries, just go, just go do, is where I'm finding myself being able to play and to have fun again and to enjoy my life. And so I don't know what's going to happen with the rest of these videos. I don't even know if I'm actually going to be able to film everything. I have a desire to, and I want to share it with you, but I think it's fair for me to say I want to bring you on the journey, but I don't know if I'll be able to show you everything. Some days I might forget, some days I might actually record and be like, yes, let's show this to the people. But as an individual with ADHD and everything else I'm working through in life, not just dealing with, but experiencing that makes things a little more challenging, I think it's fair to say that it's okay to not show up consistently. It's okay to not always post a video. It's okay to not always, from an entrepreneurial businesswoman point of view, it's okay to not always be marketing yourself and just figure out where you're at, what you want to do, and allow myself to do that. And so I don't know how else to close this video out other than let's see what happens. Let's just see what happens. And then we'll go from there. I hope for consistent videos, but we'll see. Let's have no expectations and then hope for the best. Hope that you're inspired and I'm able to just do what I want to do and it feels so easy and effortless. Is that a massive goal? I don't know. We'll see. But let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are, what you want to explore artistically, and also if you're like, no, I'm good. I just want to watch. That's cool too. So until next time, friends, I'll see you soon, and we'll chat more later. Bye.